Okay, let's get started. I'm back on the road. I've just been to the cinema, which always puts me in a lovely sanguine mood. And this time around, I have been to see Venom The Last Dance, which I enjoyed more than I thought I would. I wanted to see it because I saw the first two, and I kind of thought they were kind of okay. But then I decided to see the third one, They've got Big Lane, and yeah, it's much better than I thought it was. It was actually directed by Kerry Marcel, an English woman, which is kind of unusual for this kind of film, and it was co-written by her and Tom Hardy. Now, Tom Hardy is an actor that I haven't always had time for. He always struck me as having very much that kind of school bully vibe that I never really dug. But in this one, I warmed to him, which is a little bit unusual. I usually make snap judgments about actors and don't chase them, but this time I did. I think Tom Hardy did a great job playing Eddie Brock, the host of the symbiote Venom. And yeah, I enjoyed it. The interesting thing about the movie too, which is slightly unusual, is packed full of English actors, even though it's set on the West Coast and also in Mexico, but on the West Coast of the United States and in Las Vegas and in the desert. Lots of English actors, which leads me to suspect a lot of it was filmed in England. I haven't looked that up because I haven't done my homework on the movie yet. It's got Juno Temple playing a scientist who is investigating his symbionts. Chiwetel Ejiofor in there playing a military guy who doesn't like symbionts. We get Rhys Ifans in there playing a hippie father who's taking his family to Area 51, just as the United States government is disassembling Area 51, but not the secret base underneath it where the government is investigating the symbionts. They've got a nice collection of them, and they're investigating them. Movie starts out with Eddie going back into his own universe because it was in the multiverse that Marvel had set up, but Venom's one of those intellectual properties that is owned by Sony and Columbia Pictures. It's not owned by Disney. It's part of the Spider-Man package that Sony and Columbia still have, and they liaise with Marvel to do any intellectual properties to do with those characters. And all of the Spider-Man villains they've got rights to, things like Kraven the Hunter, which is coming out as a movie, is a Spider-Man villain, so Sony and Columbia are going to be putting that one out. It's there's some tonal things that don't usually work in the Venom movies. You've got the comedy buddy stuff between Venom and Eddie, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. It just really does depend on how exactly the lines are written and the script goes. But for the most part, it just doesn't hit that well. And in this case, it did. I think the scripting, which is by Kerry Marcel and Tom Hardy, they wrote the screenplay, it works. It just lands a lot better than the previous ones did for me. So I enjoyed that. And the first third of the movie, I thought, okay, this is going to be another Venom movie. This is going to be one that I don't really enjoy, but it's kind of entertaining while you're in the moment of watching it. And then it got a little bit of depth and it got a little bit of character, particularly when the hippie family comes along and gives Eddie a lift and lets him realize that his life does have meaning. And it's kind of nicely done. I appreciated that. And I think it gives the character a lot more grounding than it had in any of the previous movies. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting that the third movie, and arguably the last one, though there is room for sequels which may or may not involve Eddie Brock. That's all I'm saying as far as spoilers are concerned. But there's a possibility of more Venom symbiote movies. Let's just put it that way. We'll see how that goes. Keep coughing because I've got snot in my sinuses from the changes in the weather with springtime. A little bit of hay fever. But yeah, it kind of worked. But I've got this thing now that, because I've been watching lots of Corridor Crew on YouTube, I'm picking up special effects errors. Like there's a bit where Eddie and Venom are walking through the desert And Venom's head keeps popping up and it's moving around the front of Eddie. And the special effects on the Venom symbiote are always good. But it's not casting shadows over Eddie Brock. And that's the bit that got me. I kept watching that going, no, they just didn't have the time to render shadows onto the shoulders of Tom Hardy, making out that the symbiote is there. And that's kind of interesting. I suppose you can make the argument too that the symbiote is in Eddie's head. It's not physically manifesting around it, but it kind of is. And that kind of stuff just put me off a little bit. For the most part, the special effects are good. And they do that thing that a lot of special effects movies do, which makes the special effects work simpler. Is the big action scenes are filmed at night, so you don't have to render in quite as high resolution. And having low light levels at night time action scenes is a little more forgiving of the special effects work. And that they did in the first Venom movie, for instance, because of the special effects budget being what it is. But it's not to say the special effects are bad, but because I've kind of been educated a little more in how special effects, particularly computer generated ones, work, it's noticeable to me. It didn't distract me from the movie, it didn't piss me off, it didn't make me stomp my feet in outrage, anything like that, but it was noticeable. The other thing is that the session I went into in the VMAX cinema, which is the slightly posher cinemas at the Village Cinemas, which have the Dolby Atmos sound, and they're much slightly grander movies, flea pits. But the session I was going to was a 10:30 session. Now I'm going to cut these coughs out. It was a 10:30 session, and so it was what they call a mum and bub session, which means they have the sound way down. So the mothers with little children who are breastfeeding or just want to see a movie with their kiddies, and the kids are potentially going to scream and wet themselves and all that kind of stuff. They have what they call mum and bub sessions of movies. And the sound was way down on the trailers at the start. So I went up to the box office and said to them, listen, the sound's down a little bit and there are no mothers in the cinema this time for the mother and bub session. They said, yeah, we'll put the sound up when the movie starts, which they did. But the other thing that gets me is they're doing a mother and baby session for a kind of gory Venom movie, like people are getting their heads chewed off in this movie and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know, I mean, there are probably mothers who have just had children who are really into Venom and want to see the movie, but it does seem a slightly odd choice for a mum and bub session. But what do I know? I don't run cinemas. But the people at the box office were really nice. They couldn't figure out which code to put in for my ticket, which I get for nothing because I'm a licensed film critic. And so we had a little bit of a chat while they were looking it up. They were incredibly professional, incredibly nice. We worked it all out eventually, but every time I go there, I've got to kind of educate people on how the free ticketing works for reviewers of movies. And that's kind of okay. They were very nice, very professional. And we had a bit of a chat. They were very happy that all of the Terrifier masks were taken down from behind the box office because it was freaking out some of the staff to have lots of Art the Clown stuck up on the wall. I mean, I loved it. It was a great look for me. But they weren't particularly keen on it, and now they just have spooky Halloween decorations up there, which is much better, I suppose, for them. So, went and saw that. How would I consider the movie? I think for me, it could be my favourite of the three, to be honest with you. First one didn't hit for me. The second one was all over the place with Woody Harrelson and Carnage and all that kind of stuff. And it was still a pissing contest between two male characters. Whereas this third one, because it is directed and co-written by Kerry Marcel, has a lot more nuanced female characters, particularly the scientist played by Juno Temple gets a backstory and some agency. Chiwetel Ejiofor's character is stock standard superhero movie antagonistic military guy, but you can't have everything. Nonetheless, I think that it is my favourite of the three, and I enjoyed it for that. Now, while I've got you here, I'm actually driving home from Sunshine, started out the day really nicely, went to the cinemas, and I had about an hour and a half to kill. So I went for a walk through Sunshine. I'd never been for a walk through Sunshine. And it's got a very large Vietnamese population. So there's tons of Vietnamese shops down around Sunshine. Also St. Albans. It's where the Vietnamese diaspora people live. And it's kind of groovy. I went to a Vietnamese pastry shop and they didn't have any pies. I was in the mood for a pie to eat as morning tea. And they said, we don't have any pies, but we've got these, which are Vietnamese pork and chicken pies. And they're kind of round and they've got puff pastry around them. And inside is like a great big dumpling of meat and other things in it. And it's great. I really enjoyed it. Nice and hearty, not too heavy. Lots of those Vietnamese spices, all spice and all the other groovy spices that you have in it. Really enjoyed that. And it was just enough to keep me going until lunchtime. And I went for a walk around. And because I've been good with my health, now, as a lot of people who follow this channel know, I do have atrial fibrillation, which means I've got a variable heartbeat, but I am taking medication to look after that. And I've been very good about eating less food and eating better foods, cutting down on the salts. So, big tick to me. So because I was doing quite well, I went on a really long walk around Sunshine, around the streets and the commercial streets and the suburban streets, and had a really comfortable morning, just grooving on the vibe and enjoying the fact that I wasn't feeling shit. And I do know I need to get more exercise. Just to look at me, I need to get more exercise. And so I did a couple of kilometers wandering around Sunshine and just feeling the vibe. And I didn't even have my buds in listening to music. I was just enjoying the environment and having a good time. Just walking around. And as you can see now, it's not cloudy like it was this morning. Skies have cleared up. We're starting to get decent spring weather, which I really like because I come from a warmer climate than Melbourne has. I'm a Sydney boy, so I'm genetically subtropical. And so when the weather gets like this in Melbourne, I really like it. Then it's terrific for me. I can just groove on it and enjoy the vitamin D and enjoy the sunlight in my eyes and having a lot of fun. Just not needing to ruck up and wear my beanie a lot. Though I did wear my beanie this morning because it's a bit cold. So yeah, this kind of weather I like. I don't mind it when it gets really hot in summertime either. Because, like I said, I was brought up in a climate warmer than Melbourne. So warm weather and hot, humid weather doesn't faze me at all. I just go with it. I drink a lot more water and I make sure I put on sunblock when I need to. But yeah, this weather is really quite nice. Then this is a road up to Ballarat, which is where the Eureka Stockade, famous for the healing film made about the Eureka Stockade, about the miners protesting and fighting the British colonialists in the 1850s, I think it was. So this heads up to Ballarat, but that's about 80 kilometres ahead. And I'm going to be turning off way before that. So today has been a pretty good day. And I think my camera has shut down from the heat on the dashboard. So I'm going to end it here. I'll catch you guys later. Usual things, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, become a patron because you know you want to. And I'll catch you guys later.